This is Pulse of Africa, the face of Ethiopia, the voice of Africa.
Hello viewers, you're watching Pulse of Africa. I am Tinsai Gabriel for the main news. First, our top stories for today. Tanzania and Burundi launched $2.15 billion cross-border railway. Over $10 billion pledged for water projects at AU Summit. JICA to designate 4 Japanese cities as hometowns for African nations. Now, the news in detail. Tanzania and Burundi have launched a construction of $2.15 billion standard gauge railway, the first cross-border project of its kind in East Africa. The 240-kilometer line will connect Unviza in Tanzania with Musongati in Burundi and is expected to be completed by 2030. The railway will cut travel time from Dar es Salaam to Bujumbura from 4 days to less than 1, easing passenger movement and boosting regional trade. Tanzanian Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa said the project will attract new investments and strengthen bilateral ties. Burundian President Evariste Ndayishimiye hailed it as a long-awaited dream, noting it will finally allow Burundi to export its vast mineral resources. The project, led by China Railway Group Limited, will fully be electrified and built to international standards. The Central African Republic has officially scheduled its general election for December 28, following multiple delays. Voters will cast ballots for presidential, preliminary, regional, and municipal offices. Territorial Administration Minister Bruno Yapande confirmed on the date on Tuesday, stating that the Electoral Authority is focused on updating the voter registry. Approximately 2.3 million voters are registered, with the final list expected to be published on August 29. The announcement comes as President Faustin Archange Touadéra seeks a third term. Tunisian President Kais Saied has reaffirmed his country's support for efforts to achieve a comprehensive political settlement in Libya. He met Libya's President Council head Mohamed Menfi in Tunis on Monday, where the two leaders discussed strengthening bilateral cooperation and regional stability. A statement from the PC said Saied expressed full support for the body's role in advancing the political process and promoting national unity. The talks also touched on coordination in international forums and regional issues, including the war in Gaza. More than $10 billion in water investment commitments were secured at last week's inaugural African Union Africa Water Investment Program Water Investment Summit held in South Africa. South Africa's Water and Sanitation Minister, Phumi Mjondea, announced the successful pledges. It showcased 80 priority water and sanitation projects from 38 countries, aiming to close the continent's $30 billion annual water investment gap. AU Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment, Moses Vilakati, said the summit was a platform for transformation and testament to Africa's commitment to climate-resilient water security. The AU has also declared water as its theme for 2026, building on momentum from COP28 Climate Conference and its new action plan to mobilize the necessary funds for the continent's water demands. The Japan International Cooperation Agency will designate 4 Japanese cities as hometowns for African nations during the Tokyo International Conference on African Development, opening today in Yokohama. Nagai and Yamagata will be paired with Tanzania, Kisarazu and Chiba with Nigeria, Sanjo and Nagata with Ghana, and Mbari and Niamey with Mozambique. The initiative aims to deepen human exchanges, boost regional revitalization, and strengthen Japan's ties with Africa. Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba is also expected to announce plans to accelerate development of the Nacala corridor, with a logistics network linking Zambia to Mozambique's coast. Syrian Foreign Minister Assad Hassan al-Shibani met with Israeli delegation in Paris on Tuesday to discuss reducing tension and stabilizing southern Syria, state news agency Sana reported. Talks held under U.S. mediation focused on reviving the 1974 disengagement agreement, monitoring the ceasefire in Swida province, and ensuring non-interference in Syria's internal affairs. The meeting comes amid wider diplomatic efforts, including earlier talks in Amman between al-Shibani, Jordan's Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi, and U.S. Envoy Thomas Barak, which led to the creation of a joint working group on Syria's stability.
The story of resurgent Ethiopia and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. All the time, Pulse of Africa, the face of Ethiopia, the voice of Africa.
Now to business news. Cameroon's finance minister has been authorized to borrow $1.67 billion for development projects and debt settlement, according to presidential decree. According to a finance minister official, the move signals market confidence in the country's economy, which is the largest in Central Africa. The borrowing is intended to address slow disbursement of external financing and deficits and non-oil tax collection. Despite a recent warning from the International Monetary Fund that the country is at a high risk of debt distress, Cameroon's public debt remains below the regional threshold. As of June 2025, public debt stood at 43% of GDP, well under the 70% limit set by the Central African Economic and Monetary Community. The U.S. federal budget deficit is projected to be nearly $1 trillion higher over the next decade than earlier estimates, driven by tax and spending measures and new tariffs, according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. The watchdog forecasts cumulative deficits of $22.7 trillion from 2026 to 2035, compared to the Congressional Budget Office's January projection of $21.8 trillion. For fiscal 2025, the SRFB projects a $1.7 trillion deficit, or 5.6% of GDP, slightly lower than 2024's $1.83 trillion. But deficits are expected to rise steadily, reaching $2.6 trillion by 2035. Before concluding, let us provide you with the latest updates on global commodities prices. Now to weather updates. That's all for today. Thanks for watching Pulse of Africa.
This is Pulse of Africa, the face of Ethiopia, the voice of Africa.